Good afternoon, sports fans from all around the globe. I am your host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and this is your midday market report for Wednesday, May 18, 2022. Our weekly trip across the border to the one and only Mr. Andrew McInnis. Red hot Andrew McInnis. I mean, there's no ice in Canada right now. Let me tell you how hot this kid is. And I applaud his efforts as the eggs on my face. Last week at this time, I was high above the frozen pond in Boston as we were getting ready for game 6 and hopefully, which we did have a game 7. And as you see now where the rest of the Bruins are, yes, they are golfing right now. And what better scenery than it is to be at Southern Hills, where I was earlier this morning with our Beating the Book, Mr. Rob, as we broke down the PGA, and we did yesterday afternoon with Mr. Dubs Anderson and myself from Sports Grid. But today we have the pleasure of crossing that border and having some pucks, props, and NHL Stanley Cup talk. So without further ado, let's bring him in, the one and only Mr. Andrew McInnis.
Good afternoon, Mr. Dawson. What a background that is. Looking good.
Thank you. Thank you. I have one of the great producers and TikTok minds in the industry, Mr. Kiefer himself. And I was like, damn it, we didn't get a golf backdrop. And he goes, have no problem. You're at Southern Hills right now.
I love it. I love it. Looks good. How
Thank
about the
you.
start to the second round? What a start to that. Oh, man. I just love the playoffs.
I have to start the show this way. As you know, I'm a market reader. I believe in opening numbers. And yourself and millions of others who, eat, sleep, drink, and poop pucks, look at these matchups, these prices differently. Now, with that said, 4 series opening round, I thought the numbers were skewed for different reasons. Where, again, I'm not going to make this our whole show here, Andrew, but the Bruins opening up as a pick against Carolina. We talked about it 0-3, 16-1 in the regular season there. Carolina with the home ice advantage. We talk about the Penguins opening up minus 130. Rangers closed short favorites. We talk about the Wild opening up minus 168, closed at minus 138. And we talk about the Leafs opening up minus 130 against the 2-time defending Stanley Cup champs. Plus, we know Toronto's resume and blueprint for what happens if it goes to a game 7. I'm sitting 0-4. You're sitting 4-0. And when I say that, I am saying it in regards to, Rangers 3-1 series lead. Crosby goes out, misses 2 games. Game 7, Rangers win. Leafs 3-2 series lead. Tampa wins game 6 and then win game 7. Bruins make it a hell of a series. They get it to game 7, but Carolina was dominating at home, especially there. And then the Blues just flexed their second period muscles, I like to talk about.
You've been talking about that a lot, and you're right. It's a big second period team.
So before we jump to the second round, reflect on not only congrats, great start to the first round and all those cashes that you did have. I'd hate to be your book, let me tell you. I might be limiting you to $10 a play, but anyways, thought process going into these series, how you dissect them, and then obviously the success that you have had in the first round now leading up to the second round.
Well, thank you very much. It wasn't easy. I mean, the Tampa Bay Light. I will say I did have a future that I lost on Pittsburgh. So them to win the East, that's out the window. That's gone. I had to light that ticket up in flames. But that's a tough one. But looking at the series with Carolina, you look at the Tampa Bay series, both going 7, and you talked about the Maple Leafs kind of resume in the playoffs and kind of what comes down to it with them. But what I look for in playoff teams, especially in that first round, teams I can trust to win both low scoring and high scoring contests. And that's what I really liked out of the Carolina Hurricanes in round 1. But not only that, I think that for some teams more than others, home ice advantage is really important. And, I have Carolina as my Stanley Cup pick, or to go to the Stanley Cup finals, but if they lose a game at home, I think it throws them off big time because their home ice advantage is so crucial, is so big for them. They went into Boston, the top guys for Boston performed. If you don't like Carolina, you could say, well, they let Boston, take care of things when they were on the road. But I think it was a great effort from the Bruins, but it just goes to show how important home ice advantage is for certain teams because of that last change. You hear so many people talk about home ice advantage and they talk about the crowd. I don't care about the crowd. I care about the last change and being able to get those matchups out there that you'd like to get out there. And I look at that Florida series, the Washington Capitals, gave them a hell of a fight. And I think it's not a bad thing that Florida had to go through some adversity. But I didn't like laying this big price, Jeff, but I laid minus 150 with Florida and minus 1.5 games in the series. And that went, right down to the wire in overtime. So that wasn't easy either. So look, I'm happy with the results, but none of them were easy. I had the St. Louis. The funny thing is, the most underdog price I had was actually the easiest out of all of those bets that I had in the first round, which is not really the case and how it's supposed to be. But I think that what it really goes to show is that compared to let's talk about NFL, MLS, NBA, even college basketball. Hockey is unlike any other sport where the regular season and the playoffs are so much different. I don't even know how many times I bet on some of these teams during the regular season. Like St. Louis, I didn't probably bet on them enough during the regular season. But in that first round, and I saw the odds against Minnesota, I just thought it was far too high. So, and I'm happy, to talk with you today because you understand the numbers a lot better than I do, and I'm not afraid to admit that. You've been doing it a lot longer than me, and I've learned lots from you about that. And so when I tell people that this number isn't what it should be, I've been getting corrected by people and saying, no, 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 this is exactly what it should be because of this, because of that reason, the opener, and they say all this stuff, and it's just over my head, and it's not like I don't understand it, but from my angle, I'm more so just like, well, okay, let me rephrase. I don't think that's what it should be, like not like that's what the odds maker should have opened it up against. And so that's kind of how I felt about the Tampa Bay series against Florida. So I know you asked me about first round, but right now a lot of it is just gut and trusting, doing my research, but also just looking at these odds and saying, no, that's not right. That's not right. So as much as you're a market watcher, I'm a market watcher too, but more so just that eye test of that doesn't look very right. And that's kind of how I felt about some of these series in the first round.
And you're spot on. And when something doesn't smell right, I always refer it to the Jedi mind tricks. And usually where I lean towards is Vegas. Perfect example, the Wild. 168 it opens up. There's only one way that number's moving, and they're going to attract the Blues money. Okay. And they got that. Toronto opening up minus 130 against Tampa. Well, there is no way in hell anyone's running to the window betting Toronto at minus 130. They're going to get the Lightning money. And for the Bruins to open up a pick 'em versus a team that they started 0-3 regular season, outscored 16-1 with Carolina having the home ice was preposterous.
Right.
That's the tricks and the Jedi mind tricks that Vegas plays.
And that's the thing. It's like it's up to us to try and figure out, well, do they know something we don't? Like, Dave Koken, someone I respect a lot, yeah, at Wager Talk and, in the industry. I've heard him say before, word for word, Jeff, well, this line doesn't make much sense, so I'm going to stay away. That's what he said. I've heard people say that, something about this doesn't make sense. The books know something I don't know. I'm going to stay off. And like you and I have talked about that too, like a certain number being a certain way and where it's like, why? I have no idea. And to be honest with you, the example is in the Florida Panthers and the Tampa Bay Lightning series. If you're talking about one season, accolades, a team build, and President's Trophy winner, maybe the Florida Panthers do deserve to be the favorites that they were opening up. But from someone that follows hockey every day and a hockey bettor, it's the back-to-back Stanley Cup champions with one of the best goalies in the world and an incredibly deep roster that just took, Austin Matthews and the Leafs to 7 games. And you're going to give me like a plus 140 on that team. I don't understand where that came from, but people are going to live in the moment, I believe, and that's why they're going to like Florida. So I just didn't, but based on what you said there about Minnesota and St. Louis and then the Boston and Carolina series, were they hoping to just get money in on Tampa? Is that the plan? Like, see what happens with the opener with Florida and then bring in money on Tampa Bay? Because I can't imagine it was going to go up any higher than that on Florida.
Yeah, in other words, you want the back and forth money, or as Dave Sharapan would say, is what is the number that's going to attract both side action, or the books know how much money they're going to get in on Tampa. They're going to know how much money they're going to attract in on the Panthers. They have not just this year's. Hey, when Tampa plays, when Florida plays, this is what we're getting. That's why when you talk about NFL, it's hilarious because each week they know they're going to get 5 million in on the Cowboys and they're going to get 750,000 on the Falcons. So if the Cowboys are playing the Falcons, what is the number that we need that we know we can get enough Atlanta money to offset some of the Cowboy money that's coming? So what you just said is a perfect lead-in, okay? Because people that don't follow hockey like you and I follow it, but no, Tampa's the defending Stanley Cup twice.
Yeah.
I can just go to the window and you're going to give me the Lightning plus 140, 145, when Vasilevsky is 17-0 off of a loss the last 3 years. So now just do the basic math, because that was my lead into you. You can get the Panthers right now plus 115 to win the series. If you do the basic math now, Panthers win game 2, they even the series. Well, is the streak going to go on? Because if it is, the Lightning are not going to lose game 3, they're not going to lose game 5, or they're not going to lose game 7.
Exactly. And the numbers break down right there. And you look at it now, here it is. If they win the next game, based on recent history over at what is it, 9 straight playoff series, or what is it at this point?
At least.
Yeah, I think that, and so that's just, you look at what they've been able to do. And not only that, that Maple Leaf series was the biggest challenge that they've had in 2 years. In 2 years. And that was in the first round. So if you're going to tell me the biggest challenge they've had yet is in the first round of the playoffs, I don't think anybody took them to 7 games in their entire run. I don't believe, at least not last year. Or no, sorry. They didn't trail. They went to 7 with Florida. They didn't trail, though, in the series. So, it's just, it's real interesting. And it's one of those things where I find it so, it's, what Dave Sharapan, he posts that picture of the trash can. It always cracks me up, Jeff. The CLV trash can. It's awesome because there's so many people that love to say, well, the Warriors ended up losing by, 28 points, but I'm happy I got the best number at -6.5, not -8. It's like, good for you. They lost by, they got blown. And like, that's to me, getting the best number is long-term winning proposition. Obviously, we all know that. Anyone betting knows that. But at the end of the day, you got to pick the right side. I could tell you, Jeff, oh my God, over the past 3 weeks, I've had the sharpest number. I've got the, like whether it was a dog or a favorite, but we need the team to win. So, I'll make it clear that I wouldn't have been that guy. Like if Florida, I have Tampa, obviously you can tell I'm pretty strong about it. If Tampa loses in 6, I'm still going to be mad about it. I'm not going to be like, well, I had a great number. You know what I mean? Like, and I hate seeing that stuff online because you still need to win or lose. But the other side of it is that I've been trying to be a little bit more like, and I'm always trying to adapt, Jeff, is that I really just thought when I saw that it wasn't what it should be. So it's not like that was my strongest play of the playoffs by any means. It was something that needed to get my money just because I didn't think that they deserved to be that big of favorites. And what's nice is that the last time you and I spoke, or 2 weeks ago, was the day after round one started. And now we're talking here the day after round two when we had, like you said, what was it, plus 115 for Panthers?
Yeah.
So a little different than it was yesterday.
Exactly. And we could talk at length, the Celtics now underdogs in the series, and the Heat opened up -4. And it almost reminds me of that Carolina series where we dove into the Bruins at plus 105 and plus 170, but the Celtics have a good opportunity to go down 0-2 and then bring it back to Boston. But that's for another show. I did want to, before we transition here, I had the final leg of our weekly action parlay on Sunday. We had the Stars for a 9-1 closeout, and Odinger just stood on his head, 60+ saves, 1-0 lead, 2-1 lead. And I sent out another alert saying, hey, go get your free guaranteed money. The only way you would have survived is if you went in minus the 190 and did a unit and a half, 2 units before the puck dropped. Or we've talked about this, you could have went in game. Dallas scored 1 minute into the game. So you could have jumped right in and got Calgary at minus 120 at that point, or into the third period when Dallas had that 2-1 lead.
Yes.
Dallas was the favorite at one point. And so I can't say enough about Odinger. He was just, I should have taken some snapshots of some of, not just your tweets on your timeline. It was like God was in net, and some of the saves this guy made was just unbelievable.
Jim, he's 23 years old. I had no idea. Honestly, I knew he was young. I didn't know he was 23.
Holy mo!
Give that man some offense. Somebody give him some goal scorers, please.
Well, I thought they had one with Sagan. Oh no, that was when he was a Bruin. That's right. Last night, again, Lightning take care of business. The Avs, after like a week off, struggle winning overtime against the pesky Blues. Tonight, 2 series open up. Rangers at Carolina and Edmonton against Calgary. Just by the eye test, I think you're going to get a lot of public money on McDavid and company there. And I don't know what to do with the Rangers. Take it from today's standpoint, but before we break down the games and some props that you might have, from a series standpoint, what you're thinking in those 2 games.
So, it's funny because after everything I said about that Tampa series, I'm going to kind of contradict myself here, which you don't like to do to yourself. But I don't love the series price in the Carolina one, and I'm not just saying this because I have the Cup future already. I do like them to win the series. What I have done is taken them to win in 6 at plus 110, hoping that they win a road game. That's what you need to do in order to not go 7 games, obviously. Look, I think we haven't seen the best out of either team yet. And I think the best Carolina version of themselves is better than New York's best version of themselves. But, the expected goal numbers in that game 7 for Penguins and Rangers, it's just like, I'm sorry, but if you're a Rangers fan, you should be happy your team is in the second round and put some more money in the bowl on Sunday at church, because you deserve to be on the course behind you. But even though I'm an angry person that had a future on the Penguins, I look at it and also can say that I think the Rangers can play better. The fact of the matter is, though, I think that I still like the depth from Carolina more than I like it for the Rangers. Zibanejad and Kreider could have the best series of their lives, and I still think it might not be good enough. Let's take a look at the third lines, Jeff. That's what I love looking at with Carolina. They have Jesper Fast, Nino Niederreiter, and Jordan Stahl on their third line. You know who's 2 players that are on New York Rangers third line? Capo Caco and Alexis Lafreniere. Okay, those are guys that can barely even grow a beard like myself. Okay, and you got Jordan Stahl on the other side on your third line. To me, that's the game breaker, and the difference in the playoffs are those depth players, but not just the guys that are being physical, laying down body checks, being able to get pucks deep and wear down the defenseman. I just trust Carolina's depth to do that a lot more than I trust, the New York Rangers. And when I look at that series for the Rangers, they trailed in 5 of the 7 games in that series. When I look at that, it's not promising because Carolina led the league in goals against, or, they were I'm trying to say the best team in goals against. When they get that lead, they're going to protect it a hell of a lot better than Louis Domingue and the Penguins, protected it. So I think it's going to be a great series. It could go the distance, but I just think that we're going to see Carolina steal one at home. I have Carolina -1 tonight with a half bet money line, half bet puck line. And, I'm not saying it's going to be a walk in the park, but I think if you told me tonight, hey, Andrew, the game ended 2-1, I'd be telling you, okay, Carolina won that game. And that's the kind of style of hockey I expect in this series.
And Edmonton, Calgary.
Well, I don't like hearing you say the public are going to be on the Oilers because I actually have them +1.5 games in the series. That's the wager I've taken pre-flop on this one, and it's a large part. I think it's going to go 7, and if it does go 7, then I cash my bet. I was impressed with Evander Kane. I was impressed with Yamamoto. I was impressed with several guys that contributed that aren't named Connor or Leon. And that's really it. I could stop right there. That's what the Oilers need to be successful. They need Mike Smith to be slightly above average, which he has. If we look at these analytical numbers, he's not as bad as the hockey community makes him out to be, at least not right now. Especially if he's not, passing the puck to the opponent in game ones like he did last series. When I look at the Calgary Flames, though, we talk about Ottinger. We can talk about Quick. We can talk about Ottinger, but he played out of his mind, like you said. And now they're going to go against the goaltender in Smith that has rebound control or poor rebound control, which is going to benefit them. But I just think that I can trust the Oilers to stay out of the box more, not worry too much about the physicality. And, we're going to get the goals from McDavid. We're going to get those guys making the big plays. But if I can get a sliver of just a small little bit of help from the secondary scoring from Edmonton, I think they can push this one to the distance, and that will I got it -130, Jeff, at +1.5 games. And if it goes 7, I'm not worried about who wins the game. I'm worried about, hey, I already cashed. And tonight's game, I think, goes over 6, though. I see some 6.5s and some 6s. I think it's pretty, cliche, but pretty basic handicap in here. Both teams coming off a series against top-notch goaltenders, Ottinger and Quick. They had 50 shots a game, it felt like, against those goalies and couldn't put much past them. You get that feeling that when a new series opens up, we might see the floodgates open up, especially in a series where I expect plenty of penalties and power plays, and both teams are great there on the power play. So that's my breakdown. I think it's going to be a great series. And as much as I think Calgary's a great team with 4 30-goal scorers and much more, I think it's going to be a close one. What about you? Are we head-to-head or are we rocking together?
I'm gun shy from the first round, to be honest with you. We had futures. It's so funny. I talked before the season started about in the East, Carolina and the Panthers. Those were my 2 talks. And then it was the Avs. And then we were searching for, the dark horses throughout. Before the playoffs started, stuck with the chalk, Panthers, Avs. My dark horse was the Leafs, and really was pushing for the Leafs to get through, and then the winner of the Leafs and Panthers, I thought, would have an advantage, even though if it is Carolina, I thought it would be a series where either would have been favored and could have got to the cup there. But obviously that didn't happen. So kind of sitting back, watching the first couple of games and maybe, put our feet in or our toes, to see which way these go. For me, outside looking in, I respected. I was talking to Sharapan on Saturday. We talked about for an hour. He was going to put some exacta plays together. Circa was offering before the Carolina Bruins game 7, because there was so many game 7s, you could get some amazing, if you liked Carolina to go to the Cup versus the Avs or whatever, 15, 18 to 1 and such and such and such. And it's just intriguing how one game sways these things. But getting back to the Rangers, I respect the shit out of Carolina. I said the winner of the Bruins Carolina would plow right through the Rangers or the Penguins. So I got to stick to my guns there and say Carolina's going to win that series. I thought the Rangers showed tremendous heart. They were favored every game at Pittsburgh. They lost the game 3 and 4, giving up 7 goals each of those. But game 6, they prevailed. But the real question is, and I think you know this answer, if Sidney doesn't get hurt, I don't think that happens.
I agree, and I hated to even say that because I thought they could do it without him. But it is a different series, and Jeff, I have a hatred towards the Rangers because a certain player named Chris Kreider ran over Carey Price, and before last year's Cup run, that could have been the first Cup run I saw in my life if Carey Price didn't go down in that series. But I think somebody commented on a YouTube video I did the other day, our Puck Time, and they asked, "How come you guys don't handicap penalties more?" And it kind of brought a smile and a laugh to our face because it's like, well, how the hell am I going to predict how many penalties a team's going to get tonight? But what you can predict is the physical, type of game and that kind of stuff. And to me, look at the Carolina side, they're actually a very disciplined team. They don't take a lot of penalties. And you look at Edmonton and Calgary, everyone keeps telling me, well, Calgary's bigger, they're stronger, they're more physical. Yeah, well, good. I think they're going to get more penalties after the whistle, which are going to lead to power plays and stuff like that, which you wouldn't think. Like it's kind of like the joke on Twitter right now. Like, is Scott Foster officiating tonight's game? Like like everyone's talking about Scott Foster in the NBA. Like, what do you take into that question? Somebody asked me because I look at it a little bit like power play, special teams, but can I really? Am I batshit crazy for handicapping how many penalties there's going to be in a game, or does that make some sense?
I think the referees, whatever, from my 2 cents, gets overblown. I think it's just something where people show past records. People show when this ref, Scott Foster, is reffing in a clinching game or potential elimination game, the opponent is 14-1. Therefore, everyone's talking about it.
Yeah.
The refs, you can dig deep into hockey and say when this ref is here, Marchand is in the penalty box at least 1.5 times. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think the only sport that it works for actually is baseball, because I know some people that actually they actually put a lot of time into looking at umpires, how many walks per game when this guy's behind the plate, and that makes sense because it's a pitcher versus batter sport, not a 5-on-5 type sport.
No, 100%. We use Sports Insights, and in one of the boxes that we can pull up is the home plate umpire and what the record is when he's behind the plate for the home team, and what the record is and winning or losing percentage for the overs or /unders.
Okay.
So it gives you, is he does he favor the home team, number one, and is he calling a bigger plate, which creates unders, or is he a real tight guy, which puts more guys on base, therefore is an over umpire?
Imagine if those guys found out about that. They're just like, you know what I mean? They probably have no idea that these websites existed. Imagine if they were like, geez, in the past 4 years, 60% of my games have gone over eight runs,
Before we wrap up here, tonight's games, is there a prop? Is there something without having to obviously go? I don't want you to tip your hand today. Or is there something coming up tomorrow, or something that you see that we could just throw the public a bone that are watching and listening tonight?
Look, I think Evander Kane over 3.5 shots on goal is one that I really like. I talked about him, and how he played in the first round. It has moved to 3.5, which is obviously not as fun as getting those 2.5s, but it's really heavily juiced at 2.5 anyway. I know it might sound like I'm exaggerating, but I truthfully think the way he plays decides the series for the Oilers. McDavid and Draisaitl, those guys could decide a series, but it's that third, fourth, or fifth piece. Let's not forget they picked him up like midway through the season after he had some personal stuff going on. People kind of forgot how good this guy was. And he's a perfect fit for the Oilers because he's a good player that doesn't take blank from anybody, and that's what I like. He's like a Tom Wilson type guy, he can fight, but he can also play on your top line. So over 3.5 shots for him is a good look there. And I'll just say it, my favorite play of the day tonight in the NHL is the over 6. If you can get over 6 and avoid that 6.5, I expect the floodgates to open up tonight in Flames and Oilers. And I can't tell you who's going to win tonight. I can tell you I think that it's going to be a close series, but just after seeing both goalies, Ottinger and Quick, stand on their heads against these teams, you got to expect something will give a little bit here.
Yeah, and I'm seeing across the Vegas Strip, they're sticking to the 6.
Okay.
Juiced over 25 cents across the Vegas Strip, 30 cents at Stations, 33 cents at Heritage. But yeah, they don't want to get to that 6.5. I think they'll expect a lot of sharper, heavier money will come in and hope it's the 3-2 empty netter for the 4-2 or something like that. I agree, and I love where your eyes are on that one. And Rangers Carolina again at 5.5 over 20 cents. And the Ranger goalie, I'm not saying he wasn't that goalie that he was in the regular season. And that's the one thing that scares me. If that guy pulls an Ottinger or a Quick in the next 7 games, that's going to be wow.
Here's a sneaky play, Jeff, that's cashed a lot in this playoffs. And again, that guy I told you about a couple weeks ago, PSU Auto on Twitter, he tracks all this stuff. No goal first 10 minutes. I can't believe the odds they give you on that. I know it might sound like a goofy prop, but it's results, right? I mean, all these tickets cash the same. No goal first 10 minutes in the playoffs so far has been a really great bet to make because the first period has been the lowest scoring period by a landslide. And especially in game ones, it's the feel out process. We saw it in Tampa last night, or in Florida. We saw it with Colorado and St. Louis ending 1-0 in the first period. Albeit that was a low scoring game in general, it could have had tons of more chances. I think that we'll see that in the Carolina Rangers game. I honestly think if you like the over in that game, I genuinely believe you can get 4.5 live. I really do believe that we can see a slow start and get to 4.5.
The crawler's been working the whole time, as always. You can catch Andrew at McInnis Picks at Wager Talk at Sports Mayflower. You can jump over to YouTube at Mayflower Sports. Hit the subscribe button. It's free. Smash the like button. Tell a friend, tell a neighbor, tell anyone that wants to listen. Andrew, tell them what you got going for you the rest of the week, the month, or whatever special you might. I said might be having.
I've got a big MLB play up today, actually. So it's I gave most of my action for NHL, but I have a strong MLB side up today, a pretty good price tag on it as well. And I'm a low volume guy, a lot more low volume than I am in NHL. Just kind of one strong play every few days. Other than that, it's kind of just low units with the MLB. So looking forward to that. And as far as the Mayflower sports stuff, with restrictions, I'll say lowering and easing up and all over. We've started to do more in-person media stuff, and our YouTube channel is bumping right now with lots of content. So even if you aren't from my hometown, do me a favor, subscribe to the channel. It makes us look good. Give us some subscribers. I'd appreciate it.
Andrew McInnis, our weekly trip, obviously, across the border next week when we come back to greet you. There'll be a handful of games and series still going on. Most likely there could be some game 6, game 7s. Who knows? Maybe someone swept a 1-5 and they're getting ready for the Eastern or Western Cup finals. Can't wait for that. But if you are wagering today, please do it responsibly. If you do have a problem, ask for help. Why? Myself and Andrew care. We want to see you here today, tomorrow, next week, next month, through 2022 and beyond. From myself, Jeff Dawson at EC Sports Invest, from Andrew McInnis at McGinnis Picks at Wager Talk. We wish everyone a blessed day. Have fun, cash some tickets, and stay out of the penalty box. Okay?